10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 76. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 76 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. So glad you're here checking out the show, and we want to welcome you in. What we do every week is give you a roundabout 10-minute jazz lesson to give you something to work on for the week and beyond. We've made it all the way to episode 76. I'm super excited about this, and as we approach episode 100, I just want to thank you all out there for tuning in every week, listening, giving me feedback, and being part of the community. So I wanted to do a shout out for the week. This iTunes review is from Megan. She says, "Obsessed. I can't afford lessons, and I can't believe these awesome lessons are free. Thank you for the PDFs." Well, you are so welcome, Megan, and thank you so much for leaving a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and we'll keep the lessons coming at you. So speaking of PDFs, if you'd like the PDFs to this episode and every single episode, please head over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/10-minute jazz lesson. And if you can't find it by that link, head over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and click on one of the many Patreon links included in the show notes. We're asking for a $3 donation every month in order to receive those PDFs. I think you'll agree that's a fair price for the amount of content that we're putting out. So please head over there and become a patron today. There's going to be lots of other extras that are be coming your way in the next couple of months. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So today what I'm going to do is I'm starting a multi-part series about the basic building block exercises for bebop. And this is probably some of the most important stuff that you will ever work on when it comes to learning to play over bebop and more modern jazz. As I said in the show notes, bebop is really the blueprint for everything that came after it. So therefore, even if you're not going out and playing bebop every weekend, you need to have a really firm understanding of that music. I mean, at the time, it was the most revolutionary form of music that anybody had ever heard. Musicians taking the concepts from the 20s, 30s, and 40s and just really making them more complicated and making a much more difficult form of music to play. If you delve into the history of bebop, it's very, very interesting reading about Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and some of those other instrumentalists that really brought this form of music to the forefront and basically started what we would call modern jazz, taking it out of the dance halls and kind of putting it into the concert hall, and really a form of music that is just so interesting and kind of challenging to listen to. So the concepts that I'm going to use over these next weeks here in this series are all from Barry Harris. So if you don't know who Barry Harris is, you should go out there and look him up immediately. He is one of the greatest bebop pianists and teachers that we have in the world today, and really just a treasure, a national treasure when it comes to playing jazz. Now, he has a series of jazz workshops that I've plucked a lot of this information from, and I'm working on a project for both myself and my students where I'm compiling all of this information that's kind of spread out all over the internet and on several documents and trying to put it in one place. So all of the exercises that you're going to hear from me for the next, few weeks are going to be from Barry Harris. I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due. This stuff is really going to take your playing to the next level. And what we're going to cover in the Bebop Basics is all of the basic exercises that he has everybody do before they get into more complicated iterations of trying to play over bebop harmony, bebop chord changes, and just generally having a bebop sound. So that's what this is. This is all from Barry Harris. Please go and look him up. Amazing, amazing, amazing person and musician and educator. Really revolutionized the systematized form of learning bebop. All right, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to give you 4 exercises this week, and 3 of them are going to be relatively simple. I would imagine that a lot of you out there can already do this, but you're going to want to go over it again and just make sure that you can do it on the fly and do it perfectly each time. So the first exercise, very, very simple one. What we do is we take a Mixolydian scale, and you're going to notice that all these exercises are in the key of C, so it's your job to put them into all of the other keys so that you have flexibility and you can play over anything that comes at you. So the first exercise is a Mixolydian scale from the root up to the 7th. All right, that's it. And it's all 8th notes, so you're going to want to play up and down the scale, then go right on to the next key. Now you can do these around the circle of fourths, you can do them chromatically, you could do them in whole steps, you could do them in thirds. Whatever you want to do is fine, and in fact I suggest switching it up every once in a while so that you don't fall into a pattern of playing them the same way every time. That's going to kind of be detrimental to you when you actually get into a tune and start playing this stuff. If it's not in the same order that you practiced it in, you're going to find it very difficult to play. So a simple exercise, but you're going to want to make sure that you get around all the keys. I'm going to play it for you through a couple of keys. I'm going to go chromatically through the keys. Here's the Mixolydian scale. So you can hear, then I would just keep going up through all the keys until I got back to the key of C. So again, simple exercise, but can you do it at least that fast? If you can't, you need to spend a bunch of time working on that, all right? So now we're going to do exercise number 2 is the exact same thing, but on a major scale. So up to the 7th, back down. Let me play that for you real quick. So this is just basic knowledge of scales. It's making sure you understand how to get up and down these particular scales before we get into the more complicated stuff. So the next exercise is also very simple, probably something that you've already done at some point. It's just thirds up and down the Mixolydian scale. Actually, really just up, I'm sorry. So you're really going to be just playing these up to prepare you for the next exercise, which is going to be a heck of a lot more difficult. So this is basic thirds, and I'm going to do this in just a couple of keys, and this time I'm going to go around the circle of fourths so that it challenges my ear to hear something different than half steps and gives me a little different order to do this. So this is just thirds on the Mixolydian scale up. Okay, so now for the complicated one for the day. This is the one that you're really going to have to work on. This is the one that's going to take you a while and might be out of your comfort zone for the week. Hopefully the rest of those won't take you that long. This is going to be the tricky one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take those thirds and we are going to put a chromatic approach tone before we start each third. And you're really going to want to have the PDF to look at this one to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So basically what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm in the key of C. I'm going to start on B, go up to C, so chromatic approach to C, play a third up to E, come back down, do a chromatic approach to D, so C sharp to D, play that third, D to F, and then I'm going to continue my way up the scale playing thirds with that chromatic approach tone. And this is really, chromatic approaches are really kind of the heart of bebop. Chromaticism, it's so important. If you listen to the music of Charlie Parker or Sonny Stitt or any of the bebop guys, this stuff is all over the place. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. these are the types of exercises that are really going to get you to be able to start expressing that chromaticism, those approach tones, things like that on your instrument, and then eventually being able to do that over tunes. Now, again, it's important to realize that we're building towards something here. So we're going for encyclopedic knowledge of chords and scales, and this is the first one that's going to start to get you there. So we started with just a plain scale, then we went to the thirds. Now we're going to be doing thirds with the chromatic approach, and you're going to notice this is kind of the system as we go through a lot of these basic bebop exercises. So here are Mixolydian thirds with chromatic approach tones. So that one's tricky. I suggest spending some time in the key of C so that you understand exactly what's going on with that exercise. And then the really tough part is moving that one around to all 12 keys. That could take you a while. So take your time, go slow, try not to get frustrated. It will become frustrating at some point, but hey, anything that's worth doing is going to become frustrating at some point. So make sure you go over to our Patreon page in order to get the PDFs for this and start working on it, because next week I'm going to present you with some chord-based exercises that will become the building blocks for a bunch of the stuff that we're going to work on in the coming weeks. All right, hope you enjoyed, everybody. If you have any questions, please send me an email, 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com, and we will see you on the next episode where we will cover some more bebop basics. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to you soon.